Good morning, good day, good evening, good night. Wherever and whenever you're listening to this, welcome to the Bitaxe Townhall. We're writing the Townhall number 47. I'm One Clue, your host. I'm happy to be here with you. And today we have Scott again, as usually, with us on the stage. Hey, Scott, how are you doing?
Absolutely fantastic. Stoked to be here. Thanks.
It's
It's uh
always amazing.
it's like not daylight savings time yet. That's tomorrow for us. So this is an odd time. Hopefully people can figure it out.
I do hope so. Yeah, it's totally weird. I believe it was last weekend. And just before I went to bed, my wife was like, "Hey, tomorrow you have like 1 hour more to sleep." I was like, "What? Why?" "Yeah, daylight saving." I'm like, "Oh, damn, it's that time again." I mean, it's
Worst.
it's good.
Worst.
I had 1 hour more, but I'm still a little bit, yeah, confused about that.
Well, kids don't get the memo, right? It just screws. It just screws with kids for
Yeah,
sure.
apparently it's super fun if you have a toddler, and usually you had the ability to sleep till 5 a.m., and now you need to get up at 4 a.m. It's super fun. I tell you, it's super fun.
It is super fun. You're absolutely right.
Yeah, but apart from that, I do hope that everybody else here in this community and in the audience is all right and having a fantastic day. Usually, for those of you who are new in here, the Bitaxe Townhall is a place for you to step in to get news all around all these open source projects that we do have or that are represented in this community, Open Source Miners United here. And for the people who are listening to this recorded town hall later on, feel free to check out our community. You can find the Discord server via these live events. The Bitaxe Townhall is happening at discord.gg/osmu. Apart from that, I do want to say to everybody who's in the audience, if you have any questions, feel free to ask them. To the right hand side, you have a little chat icon. You can use that to just come in here and yeah, just ask questions about what's going on, or you have some trouble with your Bitaxe or with any other device. Feel free to ask them. And if you want to join us up on the stage, you can always just raise your hand, and I'll make sure to bring you up on stage. And yeah, with that, Scott, what's going on? What's new?
Oh man, I've been working on lots of Intel BZM2 hardware, screwing around with that. It's always interesting.
Oh, that sounds pretty interesting. I mean, we need to get that sorted out and use these free chips somehow, right?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's a pretty good opportunity. Obviously, the chips are old, but the price is
Yeah.
right. They're
Have
they're a
you,
little bit squirrely.
speaking about old chips, have you seen the announcement today from Avalon about their, I think, or no, it was Canon, sorry, not Avalon, but their miner is named Avalon, and the A6, they announced that today with 12 joules per terahash and a normal device with 300 terahash.
Okay, so this is like a big miner.
Yeah, yeah.
That's cool. That's cool. Like to see other people stay in the game. Of course, Canon was the first to make an ASIC for Bitcoin mining. The Avalon one, I believe, was the first ever one. So they've been at it for a while.
Wasn't so it's quite a while back, but I'm sometimes confused. When did actually Bitfury step into that game?
Oh, I don't know. I don't know about Bitfury. Yeah, I do know that the Avalon, I believe it was called the A1, was the first ASIC miner. CoinDad at the Bitcoin Mining Museum has one. It's like this big, it looks very hand built. It's like this huge metal box. It probably had like, you know, several mega hashes total. Um, but yeah, there was a bunch of people who were working on it, but I think they were the first ones to actually make an ASIC chip and get it made into a miner and start selling them. I don't know how many of them actually made it out there, but yeah, they were the first.
It's kind of rad. I mean, if you think about it, right?
It's pretty rad. Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's a lot of work. Like taping out an ASIC, especially for I think this is like 2013, something like that, maybe 2012. Obviously, that was very early on in Bitcoin, and it wasn't. proven out yet that ASIC mining was going to work. So it was a big leap for them to do it and get the money raised to tape out and build that ASIC and make a machine. But they definitely kicked off an industry.
Yeah, that's for sure. I mean, without ASIC chips, the network difficulty and hash rate will be probably way lower than what it is these days.
Oh yeah, yeah. I think you can go, and if you look at sort of the network hash rate over time, you can see when ASICs started to start shipping. There's just a huge jump in the network hash rate, and of course the difficulty.
Yeah, well, all right. You know what? Let's jump straight into a topic that I want to talk a little bit about, which is Bitaxe itself and what it does in certain circumstances. So, for those of you who do have a Bitaxe, it's obviously a lovely device. But one thing that is quite bugging a little bit is sort of the protection all around that. I mean, especially these days, there are so many manufacturers out there, so many companies that are producing these devices. And to be honest, you purchase one at company number one, and then you go to another company number two, and you get a totally different quality, totally different ICs on it, because the one company decides to use genuine parts, the other one was stripping off a couple of cents for the production to use some cheaper chips. Primarily nothing bad about that, but sometimes you get these devices which are lacking in every single term of like quality and what they're actually capable of. Not only the chips. I mean, obviously, if you get like a Bitaxe with an ASIC chip that's not capable and is just producing low hash rate or no hash rate at all, that's the worst thing that can happen. But yeah, unless you want to solder yourself, usually you go to your manufacturer and hopefully you get a new one, unless you order it in China, because I think there's no, not all of them, but I think like it's a habit that you think about. Yeah, you order something at AliExpress or something like that, and then you never hear again from that manufacturer. It's a thing. But apart from that, not everything is bad. Obviously, I've written and I've heard and read a lot about like, hey, what if my device is overheating? What's happening? Well, the current process of what your Bitaxe is doing is it's going in a so-called overheat mode state. That's something that I've implemented a while back ago, which just checks the ASIC temperature, and depending on what kind of device you have, it is actually reading the ASIC temperature from the die itself, or it is using another device which is sitting nearby, and this is applying a sort of offset to it, and then therefore we're trying to actually figuring out the temperature of the ASIC chip itself. And if you hit a certain threshold, which is 75 degrees Celsius, then your device will basically just shut down for a second, reboot, and lower the frequency. The problem with that is we never really played around with a couple of these pins that we do have on the ASIC. For example, the RST pin, which is the reset, or a locking state pin, which allows the ASIC chip to be in a certain state. And we need that for the initialization of the chip itself to get it up booting and get it into the mining state, and having the option to give it all the information it needs to start this process. But we never really played around anything around with that. So your device reboots and it goes into the same state, and it's still drawing power. So even you're in the overheat mode, your ASIC chip is wasting around 10 to 12 watts, which is, it's okay. Obviously, it's not more than what you usually do have, but it's still, in my opinion, way too high. So what I was working on the last couple of weeks is a rework on the overheat mode, and I've accomplished that, and it will be in the next release. And I hope it will enlighten a couple of the people who are trying to fuck up their Bitaxe and just overheat it constantly. But I want to give you a brief overview of what it's doing. The new mode will actually still measure the ASIC chip and will figure out, well, are we in an overheat scenario? And if that is the case, then we instantly shut off the power to the Bitaxe itself. And we do that in a quite clever way. Instead of just shutting off the TPS, which is your buck converter that converts the 5 volts input down to the 1.2 volts that we need on the ASIC chip, we raise the RST pin again. And that puts the ASIC chip itself into a state where it's no longer drawing that much power. It's probably drawing 0.2 to 0.5 watts, so not really that much. But what it's doing is with that, we're reducing the entire load of the device or of the ASIC chip. So you have a much quicker cooldown period, and you're no longer reinitializing the ASIC chip. And now we're in a state where we can actually cool down. And it will wait, depending on what kind of model you do have. For newer models, it will wait at least 30 seconds to come to a stable temperature. And then it will start to reinitialize the ASIC chip, but with a reduced ASIC frequency and a reduced voltage. I set currently the threshold to 100 megahertz less and 100 frequencies less, so or voltage millivolts less. So with that, we are constantly reducing the hash rate until you get into a state where it's stable and where it's no longer overheating. So I think that's quite cool. Yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say that is fantastic. I know originally I was sort of pushing for no, we should just shut down and stop mining because obviously something needs to be dealt with. But I think I've changed my mind on that.
Here's the tricky part. So after it came down to actually the point where it is back again in a safe manner of temperature, it starts reinitializing the Bitaxe and the ASIC chip. Only the ASIC chip, not the Bitaxe. So the Bitaxe is no longer rebooting. It's no longer going in the state where it is just erroring out and having a panic and then just rebooting, because that's what was happening before. Now it's just staying online, you're connected, and you see after 30 seconds, or if you hit a safe temperature range, then it will reinitialize the ASIC with reduced frequency and reduced voltage to it. And this actually allows you to just keep on hashing and just having a downtime of 30 seconds on the maximum. So that's pretty rad. The cool part here comes next. I haven't opened the PR yet, but I don't know why people want this. But I heard the people, I read it on Reddit, I read it on X. Some people here in Discord were also about it. Well, we need that. So I created it, but this will go into the next release. Not in the version 2.11.0, but it will probably go into 2.12, which will give you the feature of just clicking a button and your ASIC goes into sleep mode. And you can reactivate it. That's basically what this rework of this overheat mode is allowing you to do. So now you have even further control over the entire device. Now you can actually also have control over the ASIC. Let's say you just want to keep it zipping and running around, but you, for whatever reason, you need to save these 10 watts of power currently, and you can just put your Bitaxe into sleep. Or you want your device to be still connected, but during the night, you want to have it in a reduced state where it's not drawing that much power, because when the ASIC chip itself is with a high RST pin, it goes in a state where the entire device is only pulling 3 watts. So now think about using it off-grid. During the day, you can have it online, and during the night, you can just bump up or click the button or use an API command, and then out of a sudden, your device is going into a sleep mode. It's still connected, but it's in a sleep mode, so it's drawing way less power. You can consistently go over the night, and on the next day, boop, you just reactivate it, and there you go. I think it's
That's pretty slick.
Yeah, I think it's cool, but I don't know. I don't have use cases for that. I think other people do. So yeah, it will be in the next release that you can do that, but not in this one, which is coming up any day soon. TM. We still need to merge a couple of things.
Having that control over the API will be useful for people, like you said, who are using solar or any sort of other more dynamic power environment where they might need to
think a little bit deeper. I mean, with the BAP protocol that I've written a couple months ago, you already do have sort of a little bit control over the Bitaxe. It's just a couple of lines more that we need to add, and then you can entirely control whatever you want with it over serial. Sure, the BAP protocol is using UART, but like if you have a solar panel and something that's controlling this solar charger, controller, whatever that you have, you probably have a UART connection that you can use for other stuff. So
So I have a question for you about the overheat mode that you were talking about before, where it'll sort of um, essentially scale back the hash frequency
Yeah,
to try and keep it from overheating. I think that's a great idea. Obviously, that keeps the Bitaxe mining, which is important, right? We want to keep these things mining. You know, if we have during a summertime event where like lots of Bitaxes overheat and go offline, people who
mm.
have them running in their closet or whatever, they might not notice. So this is great. It keeps them mining. My question is,
I probably know
should
where
we?
you want to go. Like we still need to have a. So that's what I'm thinking that you want to ask. Sorry for interrupting here. You probably are now
Yeah, go ahead.
asking
Yeah.
yourself, well, how does the user know it overheated, right?
Well, actually, my question was going to be, do we ever attempt to go back up?
No, with overheating, not. With overheating, not. So what I've done is I'm temporarily storing the frequency, the megahertz and the voltage that we've set previously. And if we go into the overheat mode, it will take this as the last known frequency, reduce it by a factor of 100, and it will keep going lower and lower and lower until we are in a state where it will be too low to actually hash and overheat. That's just a protection on that end. Technically, sure, we can also move it into the other direction, but I doubt that that is useful. We do have a PR open, which is trying to sort out the way of how can we automatically tune and adjust the frequency and everything else. It's a pretty nice looking PR, a couple of things and bits that needs to be changed on that because it's currently not mergeable in the state it is. But that would be another feature that would give you the option of, well, my device notice it. It is at 50 degrees Celsius on the AC chip itself, and everything is fine. I'm stable on this temperature. Why not go higher? That would be able with that implementation. But for the overheat protection, I think the functionality of this task should be primarily and only to keep the device safe and don't burn your house.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. I mean, it seems like there would be kind of two main situations where a Bitaxe is overheating. One uh, is something that's not ever going to be fixed, where like the thermal paste is bad, or the fan isn't working well anymore because it's full of dust, something like that, right? That's never going to get better. The user, if they ever want to go back up to full hash rate, they're going to need to fix that. But then the other situation is it's just warmer. I've heard of people that have their Bitaxe in a position in their room where the sun comes in,
Hmm.
during the day, it hits it and it gets hot. But then later at night, uh, it's not, right? It cools off. Or, maybe it's just summertime.
I mean,
So
one
in
thing that
those
I would
cases,
argue on this instantly would be if you do have it in a spot where it gets warm during the day, especially during the summertime, and your device is overheating, then probably your fan is not capable or your heatsink is not capable enough of cooling it down. Because technically, we already do have the automatic fan control. You don't need to modify an overheat protection into that because your device should already increase the fan speed if it is detecting that it's going above a certain threshold, which is the case of the PID controller that we do have in it.
so I guess this gets into what you were suggesting was how are we going to make sure that the user is aware that their Bitaxe is running at a reduced frequency, or that it's overheated.
So one thing that the current overheat protection does is, and that probably most users will notice, is that it will instantly apply a fan speed of 100%. So that's a noise thing that you can hear, but visually, there's nothing that's telling you, well, I was in overheat mode and now I'm coming back to normal mode. The problem with that is we could open up another PR and make sure that when an overheat mode has been established and we're just storing this uh, in the volatile storage, then we display something in the web UI or something on the screen. Sure, but most people have their screen off and most people don't take a look on the device itself. So just having a noise factor is probably the best thing in my opinion. Technically, yeah, we could add a info bar in the web UI and give people a little bit of notice on that end and tell them, well, your device overheated, you're running at a reduced frequency. I mean, if you take a look on it, the standard default frequency for the gamma is 525 and 1150 for the voltage. And the next time the time when you overheat, it will go to 425. So it's still in a range where it's totally hashing above 800 gigahashes per second. Totally fine. But yeah, you will definitely hear the noise, especially with these cheap fans. And that's currently the only thing how you get notified that your device does have overheated. I mean, the problem that I'm trying to solve with this entire rework of the overheat mode here was that we put the Bitaxe in an overheat state, but technically it could still overheat. Think about your heatsink just fell off. What we're currently doing is we are shutting down the miner and we're reinitializing the ASIC and we're putting it into a frequency of 50 megahertz and 1 volt of voltage. The problem with that is the ASIC chip is initialized. And as soon as the ASIC chip is initialized, it is drawing, I think, 8 to 10 amps, no matter what frequency you set. That's the problem. And with the new mode, you have the RST pin pulled high up, and it's no longer in an initialization standard, so it can no longer draw that amount of power. So if, for whatever reason, your heatsink is falling off, it will no longer burn up the chip, because
Yeah, I see.
if the heatsink would fall off, that's obviously the worst case. But think about it. Everybody who does have a Bitaxe and some of the early versions and even some of the versions that are currently sold, and some manufacturers are still producing it with that, we had this cheap, tiny heatsink, this yellow one, with plastic connectors. Like it was a spring-loaded connector mechanism thingy that would just hook up to the PCB and with force of the spring in it, hold down the heatsink to the ASIC chip. The problem
And there
with
was just
that
two
is,
of them, which was bad.
yeah, it was just 2 of them. So if one of them, for whatever reason, I mean, we are dealing here with heat and plastic, they don't like each other that much. After a while, they could become loose and then they fall off. And now your ASIC is exposed. And you do have the issue of like, well, damn, I thought I'm in the overheat mode. Why the freaking heck is my Bitaxe in flames? Well, the issue is we never put it in an asleep mode. And that's what I solved with it.
Sounds like a good idea to me.
Yeah,
Yeah,
at
I mean,
least.
if it's not going to be really mining very well at 50 megahertz, and
No, it's not mining at all. The problem with 50
yeah,
megahertz
so we
is,
might as well have that sort of overheat mode be just off.
yes,
Um, does the fan still run full speed in that
yes.
situation? Okay, so without having like a speaker or some sort of email notification, that's probably the best indication for people that that something is wrong.
Oh man, you're speaking about something. So we need to get into a funny scenario because, I mean, I needed something, and I'll probably I'll probably push this to GitHub very soon. I created a speaker for the BAP port. And
Nice.
what it's currently doing, every time my Bitaxe is finding a share, it's sending out a fart.
This is like Duncan's bit halo, except for more
Except
farty.
for you get noise not in form of light, but in form of farts.
There was this sort of infamous project many years ago, and it was just this tiny little circuit. I think it used like a coin cell battery, but it was, you'd attach the power to the battery, and it was a tiny little thing, and you could hide it somewhere. And at a random interval, it would just make a short little like beep. Think like a smoke detector in your house
Oh,
that the
that that
battery
would
is dead.
that would
And
drive
you
me
could hide it
crazy.
somewhere, and it was just like the absolute most annoying thing you could possibly imagine, because it doesn't beep long enough for you to actually find it.
Damn.
It just beeps randomly. We don't want to do that. That would make our Bitaxe users very annoyed.
I mean, think about it. I go crazy if I hear some. Currently I'm home alone. Wife and kid are somewhere else at grandparents, and like you walk through your house, and out of a sudden there is a certain crack or whatever else going on. You hear a noise. If I would have something that's beeping in the middle of the night or somewhere, I would go crazy and search the entire house.
Oh yeah. It always happens in the
Damn.
middle of the night. Like these things, like the smoke detectors, like they always die in the middle of the night. Or I
Oh
had
yeah.
my UPS battery backup thing. It would like the battery was failing in it, and so it would just beep randomly. But I didn't know that's where the beeps were coming from. So annoying.
I had a funny thing once when I purchased my very first server. It was a really big tower thingy. It was a MIDI tower server from Fujitsu, and I do remember the first time I configured it. I set it up and I totally forgot to apply the settings. The default settings are, hey, it's 2 a.m. I quickly test my fans. And I do had this
Oh no.
device in my office, doors wide open. Our bedroom was just next to the office in our old flat. And in the middle of the night, 2 a.m., it was going full blast for 5 minutes and testing the damn fans.
Oh. 2 a.m. Like what? Just masochist was like, yeah, 2 a.m. That's a great time to like just test something noisy.
Yeah. I don't know who actually is setting up these default values. I mean, I don't know. But yeah, servers are not designed to be in your home. Well, these days, with all these home labbing equipment, we're gonna prove them wrong. But
Yeah, that's a really good point, right? Those sorts of devices are or sort of prosumer, commercial, or industrial, right? But the Bitaxe and these miners, like they are absolutely designed for the home use.
I mean,
So
speaking about home mining, it's gonna be interesting, really, because next week, no, not next week, but in 2 weeks, I'm going to be on the Bitcoin Amsterdam conference, and I'm gonna be on stage with Mars, Duncan. Wait, who else?
and Bert, right?
And
Bert,
Bert, yeah, and Bert. We're gonna be on the stage, and we're gonna be talking about home mining, and I don't know why, but Mars is currently in a state where he wants to talk about, are home miners even worth it? Like he want to challenge the people into thinking about it. And I mean, all of us four on the stage, we already do know the answer and we know what we think about it. But yeah, well, it's
I,
really a tricky question for the average person, I guess.
yeah, I think it'll be an interesting discussion. You know, considering the people that are on stage, I uh, I think I know what the answer is, but it's worth
Hopefully.
talking about on stage.
Well, it's going to be interesting. Funny thing, I still need to book myself a hotel, but I can't decide where to go. Like, you have the option either book a hotel right next to the location, which is cheap, but it's ugly, or you go a little bit further away and it's really expensive, but you get a nice apartment. Hmm. I don't
Man, I
know.
think with these things at these conferences, you want to be at whatever hotel everyone else is at.
Probably.
Because there's, you know, those conversations, there's the running into people in the lobby. There's, yeah, I think that's absolutely worth it. Go for the crappier, cheaper hotel where everyone else is going to be, because then you'll run into people. Like you're not there. Well, you might be, but you're not there for a good night's sleep. You're there to be able to talk with these people and yeah, meet people, network, conference, have fun. That would be
Yeah.
my
I mean, I've
recommendation.
never been to Bitcoin Amsterdam, so it's gonna be interesting how it will be, especially like being there on the stage speaking about home mining and open source. I mean, obviously that's that's why I'm doing that stuff. Like going out there and telling the people that open source is the most important thing ever. But
Well,
yeah,
I'm pretty excited that you're doing these conferences, the European ones, and getting it out there and going on stage and doing well, actually doing really rad talks and panels and things. Like I don't know, this is how we win. We need more.
Well, if everything goes to plan, next year I'm gonna go over to the US to Las Vegas.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
man,
So that's the
Vegas.
current
That's
plan. I still
true.
need to figure out, like, I do need a short time visa and stuff for the US because, yeah, US. But apart
Oh,
from that,
Matt just said he got roped into a panel at Mining Disrupt. I didn't know
ooh,
about that. That's cool.
that's really cool.
We have a event happening in my hometown, like 15 minutes from my house. It's the same time as Mining Disrupt, but
Yeah.
that'll be cool. Mining Disrupt is a an interesting show because it is predominantly like big mining companies, right? And big miners and people selling miners and a fair amount of shitcoinery happening. But it's the place to be. That's where everyone is. So yes, all the people we want to dismantle, they're all there. But it is reassuring to see the organizers of Mining Disrupt recognizing home mining and getting us involved. So that should be
Have you
fun,
been to
Matt.
you have been to Mining Disrupt last year, right?
I've been this year. I think this is the first year they're doing two shows in one year.
What?
Yeah, they have one every year, sort of in the beginning of the year in Florida, and I
Hmm.
went to that. But now they're doing a second one in Texas, and it's in November. I think it's middle of November. So yeah, stoked to see that Solo Satoshi is going to go out there and represent, uh, hanging out with CoinDad from the Bitcoin Mining Museum. That'll be really cool. So yeah, if anyone is in the neighborhood considering going to that show, you should. It's going to be pretty cool.
Wait, have I? I'm thinking about it. Why you talked about the museum? Have I told you about who I bumped into on the Bitcoin Forum event here in Germany?
No, who?
So, in the eastern part of Germany, there's a city called Dresden, and they do also have a museum. And in this, obviously, like all bigger cities do have museums, but apart from that, um, there was, I don't know the technical term for her position, but there was a woman attending to my workshop, and apparently she is the leader of departure or whatever. I don't know the technical terms, so I'm sorry. But she is in charge of a section of this museum where they do present all sorts of cash, coins, and whatever over a period of like 2000 years. And she was
Oh,
attending to my workshop because I was explaining and teaching the people how to build their own Bitaxe miner. And she was totally interested and stoked and totally into it. And she was like, well, she's considering putting some of these miners into this exhibition because, like, literally, this is digital coins, digital money. It belongs into this because it's history, it's story. And I was like, wow, that's super rad. And I still need to get in contact with her, but she definitely wanted to set up a some glass panel stuffs over there where she will show some Bitcoin miners and stuff. And I do think I still have some of these old USB Bitcoin miners. One of the early ones, the Bitmain, was it the
you
A1,
you two,
U1,
you one, you
U1?
two.
I think I do have the U1 still. Because I do remember I made a video about it and I taught the people how to overclock it using a pencil.
A pencil.
Yeah, you can reduce the resistance of two resistors on the U1, and therefore you increase the flow through that, and that way you can overclock it.
Oh,
Because
okay. So it's probably like changing the voltage regulator on
yes,
there.
yes, because there usually there's graphite or something which is in a pencil, which is electrically thingy doing. Man, I definitely need to get a little bit better vocabulary when it comes to technical terms which are not programming.
I think you're changing the resistance. You're probably
Yes,
lowering the resistance.
yes. Well, it's funny
Man,
not knowing what I'm talking about.
I mean, those older USB miners were neat, and I always thought it was cool to see people doing exactly what you're talking about, like figuring out how to hack them and thinking about how to overclock it and tweak it and run different software. And I think a lot of that was the motivation for the Bitaxe and being open source was like, yeah, people do want to hack on this. Like, let's go all in and make it all open source so that you don't have to reverse engineer these things. You can just start with the design and go from there.
Well, one of the biggest challenges that you obviously face with mining equipment these days is, where do you draw the line between like industrial size and standards and what is still considered home mining? I mean, there are things like the Avalon Q, which is apparently 90 terahash and 1,000 watts or something like that, or 1,200, I don't know explicitly. But it's kind of interesting because, well, you do have all of these devices available. You can use them at home, and some of them use them for heating or whatever. I mean, yeah, whatever is going to be the use case for excessive heat. You obviously want to heat your home, but I think one of the biggest issues here that we're facing, and that we will also face in the future with Bitaxe and so on, is people need all the control. That's nice, but we also need to give people the option for using that if they are not that technical. I mean, last week I was publishing a video about how to remote connect to your Bitaxe using a easily and free to use VPN solution. And technically speaking, that's super easy. But on the other hand, I do see it like, if I would give this video to my wife and tell her, well, just do that, please, she would totally freak out and like, what the freaking heck are you talking about in your video? So it's still all really technical. And the point that I'm trying to make here is, some some of these companies that are selling you these mining devices, they also do offer you services to remote control your devices and everything else. But that's where the black curtain starts, and that's where you also have this drawing line between like what is still considered home usability or home usable with like lots of open factors to it, tweakability, and having full maintenance and control over it. And what's going into an industrial standard where you need to have subscriptions and you need to use proprietary servers and so on. So I think the line between these two sectors will get smaller and smaller because at some point, I don't know, maybe in the future we do have a remote server for Bitaxes, and I don't know, like time's gonna tell, but it's crazy stuff that what's going on here.
There's people all over the place, right? We're still seeing people buying like multiple nerd miners.
Mm,
There's people that'll have like 10 nerd miners running, which is ridiculous because you could have got a Bitaxe for that price, and a Bitaxe will have like 100 times the hash rate um, or
no,
more.
100 million times.
Yeah, that's right. You're right. It's a
100
million
million.
times more. So, that's a little bit silly to get a bunch of nerd miners. But yeah, I mean, the cool thing is you can do what you want. And hopefully, some people will look at the hash rate and say, like, oh, wait a second, like it's really low on nerd miners. And they'll be incentivized to look into something bigger. I mean, same thing with the bit axes too, right? We see people. I've run into several people that were like, "Oh, Bitaxe, that looks cool. I want to get one," and so they just buy five. Um, and you get five, you get 10, and then you're like, "All right, well, wait a second, maybe I should get something bigger." If you
That's
like it, if you
that's a
enjoy
tricky
it, if you like
thing.
hacking on it.
I always, if you talk about this and getting multiple bit X's, I'm always thinking about this one dude here in our Discord server who does have like 200 bit eggs on all his shelves in the basement.
Yes,
Oh my
yes.
goodness.
And Kakawala, right? He has, I don't know, maybe more than that, and they're hanging all over the place.
It's insane, yeah.
I think people will see that and be like, "Oh, it's a waste of money. You're wasting your time." But I don't think so. I think he's really enjoying himself and
I
learning a
mean,
lot, and he's contributing and he's helping people fix their bit axes.
and he
Uh,
builds them himself.
yes, he builds them himself, which is so rad. Like, yeah, I mean, that's exactly what we want to see is people getting into it and enjoying what they're doing and learning and moving themselves forward and moving other people forward in this very important field.
So yeah, that's really crazy on what's going on in that end. And I mean, I do know earlier we spoke a little bit about what's coming up next, and I just went a little bit deep into the section of the overheat protection and so on. But there are so many great things coming up. And one thing that I'm really loving to see, still need to dig through that, is Mutatrim was working on re-implementing the Bitaxe hex into the ESP miner
Yeah,
firmware. So he was currently
yeah,
only working on the hex 303 because that's the only device that he does have. I believe you sent it over to him, right?
yeah. I sent it over to him, which was a pain in the neck because he is not close. Shipping internationally sucks.
Yeah.
That's a whole different rabbit hole. But yeah, he was like, I would love to work on supporting this, with sort of mainline ESP miner. So I sent him the one that I had. But yeah, the Hex is kind of a cool hardware platform. I feel like we all got distracted with other things and sort of left the Hex uh, and almost abandoned it in a way. But I like to see the sort of renewed interest in people working on the Hex and updating it. Uh, Obviously, they should continue to abide by the open source license that it's under. I'm Tiny Chip Hub, but yeah, I mean, I think there's some potential for that platform. It's kind of neat because the ASICs are powered not just in parallel, but they're powered in series, so there's a little bit less pressure on the voltage regulator.
Well, yeah, that's definitely a thing. I mean, that was in the early days of Beta X one of the holy grails to figure out how does this actually work. Like, it's freaking cool that we can one single ASIC to work, but well, these bigger machines they use 12 volts usually. They do have plenty of domains, and how do we do the same? So figuring that out was really interesting. But even after that, like there are so many bits and pieces that need to come together to make this functional. And I think like the hex itself was an amazing device in the first place because we got it sort of working. It's not perfect, especially if you have like, uh, if you think about the old days where like you actually needed to strip off the AC chip of an hash board and then reapply them to a new device like the Bitaxe or the hex or whatever. Well, how do you make sure that all of these devices and all of these chips are actually working well? Well, the answer is you
Yeah,
can't because you're either not informed about how these boards actually are internally built, like what is the difference between all of these domains, etc., etc. I mean, till the hacks, or since the hacks, we 2 years have passed, and we have gained so much knowledge. We definitely should need to. We definitely need to build a new one. That's what I'm. That's what I would
I
say.
agree. I agree. I think that's absolutely worth doing. Getting better at doing the level shifting across multiple voltage domains, balancing the chips. But I've heard from manufacturers that when you add more chips to a design, it gets it gets exponentially more complicated. I think people don't realize is that just because you have a chip that says BM1370 on it doesn't mean it's going to work at all, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to work the same across two chips. Like they have lots of different bins, they have lots of different performance characteristics across BM1370 chips or
They have
68 or
different
whatever, any of the
packages.
chips. And I think some of the less reliable, trustworthy manufacturers of Bitaxe, they'll just get the chip, slap it on there, and sell it, and then it's the end user might get something that doesn't work very well or doesn't work at all. So one of the things that the better manufacturers do is they'll test it, right? They'll test each machine to make sure that it works and to make sure that it works up to a certain level of performance. Now, the end users, they have to pay for that. Like the time to do that isn't free. But I think you're going to have a better experience with your hardware if you buy it from a reputable manufacturer via a reputable seller.
Or at
Um,
least just
yeah,
spin up Google and quickly Google something about the reseller or manufacturer that you're trying to purchase from.
yeah, yeah. Like do your own research here, right? Just because it looks like a BitAxe or if it looks like a Nerd QAxe, right, doesn't mean it's going to perform.
And
well.
I always love to say it also applies to the other way around. Even though we have a list of legit manufacturers of Bitaxe org, doesn't mean that all of them are equally good or that all of them are good in the first place. Just do your own research. Everybody does have a different feeling about things and manufacturers. Sometimes it's just communication wise, sometimes the devices are actually not well built. So there are so many differences, and just quickly Googling is so easy in 99% of all cases. And
Yeah.
just, yeah, yeah, there's no more
Well, I
to
mean,
say.
with like anything in life, cheap stuff is cheap for a reason, right? Like it isn't just someone being like, "Oh yeah, I want to make it cheaper." Like, no, no, no. It's cheaper because something's not happening, whether that's quality assurance or after sales support, things like that. So when you this happens with airline tickets, right? You just sort by price and you're going to get on the worst fucking airline. It's going to be so gnarly. Um, it's going to be at a bad time of day. It's going to be a bad flight. So this isn't to say don't buy cheap stuff, but just be aware when you buy really cheap things, it's usually cheap for a reason, and it's going to require probably more effort on your end to get a working product. So if you aren't the kind of person who enjoys or wants to deal with that, then search for a reputable seller. Do yourself a favor there. Like you can go and buy knockoff stuff of anything anywhere, and it's just not going to be as good. I don't think that's a big secret.
Well, yeah, that's usually the case. I mean, the best way would be to just build it on your own, right? Just
There you go. Yeah, I mean, if you really like messing with this stuff, build it yourself, right? People can do it. People have done it. Lots of people have done it. It's not necessarily easy, but you're going to learn a lot about electronics and firmware and Bitcoin mining. So highly recommended to build your own.
it's definitely a fun process and takes a little bit of time, but you'll get used to it. And trust me, it's funny. It's funny. You're gonna fuck up very often.
Yeah. I mean, if you're listening to this town hall, the Open Source Miners United town hall, right? You're already in the rabbit hole at least a little bit. So, why not jump all the way in and learn some stuff, have fun.
I'm constantly thinking about what I wrote a couple of days back in the announcement channel that I was thinking about doing live sessions. I'm still thinking about how I want to approach that because it seems like people would be interested in that, and lots of interest is coming up there. But the thing is, I'm not sure. Like currently, the town hall is going bi-weekly. Technically, I could use each week that I do have off for this other session, but I don't know how the format shall be.
I don't know. My suggestion would be to not stress about it too much and just do something, anything, right? We had this with 256 Foundation, we had this design review session a while back. It was about the Libra board, which is the open source control board for bigger miners.
Mhm.
It was me and Eco and Ryan and Schnitzel, and it was mostly just a design review session for Schnitzel. We were looking at his design and talking about it before he got it manufactured. So it was essentially an internal meeting, but we live streamed it, and it was like almost 3 hours and very technical. But I was surprised to hear from people that just watched it and loved it, like both non-technical people and technical people. And so we got lots of feedback from that. Not lots, right? Like a few people, but still, it was like there was people out there who got value from it. I'm actually, my mind is blown that people would watch it in the first place, but watch it and get something from it, and yeah, provide feedback. So I think the thing there is to just do it. If you have the time and the desire to do it, just do it. Do anything, and the format can kind of work itself out as you go on. I mean, that's what happened here with the town hall, right? Is like you were like, "Hey, let's do this," and now here we are at 47 episodes, and we've kind of got a bit of format, and we've got 28 people listening live, and who knows how many people listening on the recording later on. But yeah, I think it'll be useful.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, sure, if I do take a look into all of these things, how many people are actually listening to the town hall, it's kind of hard because I'm basically providing that to every single platform that I do know, like Spotify, Apple Podcast, Fountain, YouTube, and a couple other ones. But it's some people do listen to it. I do get regular answers to it or questions about it, so it's going quite well. But yeah, it's definitely interesting to see that lots of people are interested in that. And sure, technically speaking about it, there's so much going on, especially here in OpenSys Miners United with all of the crazy people who are just building something new basically every single day. And I mean, just think about it. It started with the Bitaxe, and now we do have how many different products out there? It's insane. And
It is
the
insane. It's a
most
lot to keep up with,
the
but
most crazy thing is like, I mean, sure, I'm developing on some of that stuff here, and I try to keep myself up to date with all of the projects that are going on here. But I do think about it. Like PMax, for example, he was creating the first QX, technically speaking, a really long time ago. And then he improved it and he improved it and he improved it. And then the Nerd X came out and the Nerd QX came out and the Nerd QX Plus and now the Plus Plus. And even the Plus Plus, that is over a year ago that he built it. And out of a sudden, like 1 year later, now everybody is talking about it. I do see it basically everywhere. Like all of these big YouTubers are talking about it. It's going crazy on Reddit, on Twitter, the same. It's insane how long it takes, even though you build such a great product, for people to recognize it. And I feel so grateful for him that he does get so much great positive feedback about it and that so many people love this device. And that
absolutely.
like, who can go out there and look at themselves and say, well, I designed a product and everybody's building and loving it. Who can say that about themselves? It's crazy. It's crazy what's going on with this open source scene here that we do have. And I just love to see that so many people enjoy it and actually think about it, what it means to own your device.
It's so cool. Yeah. And of course, the NerdQX plus plus solving a block on self-hosted public pool. Was that
That's
2 weeks
so
ago?
crazy.
So crazy. And everyone was going nuts on Twitter about it. Like Max Kaiser posted, like, everyone should be running one of these.
Yes.
Uh, what's that bro? Oh, Robert Breedlove like posted something about it. I think he was trying to sell something. But anyways, he tweeted about the Nerd QX solving a block. It's just madness. Like everyone loves it.
If I'm not mistaken, and PMax, please correct me if I'm wrong here, I think that was the first device of the ones that you developed that actually hit a block.
Typing. Correct.
Correct.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. That's
So
so
cool.
crazy. I still do have. I'm really sorry to say that I still do have the QX that you sorted once for me because I was too stupid on the ASIC part. Still sitting on my shelf. It's not running. It's not running, but I'll keep it. I'll keep it. It's a good reference of acknowledging what we built. But I'm a little bit in fear. If I think about what will happen in the next 5 to 10 years, I need a warehouse to host all of the devices that we ever build.
Yes. You're gonna need to open a museum.
Yes, I should probably open a museum. The Open Source Miners United Museum. Don't get me into crazy ideas, man.
I mean, but this is how it works with open source, right? It's like, if you have a company closed source, you just have kind of the people working on it that you can hire, um, and it's limiting in a way, right? Getting this stuff out there, people show up, brilliant people like PMax just show up and are like, I want to work on this, and now look, we have a whole line of Nerd QX miners, and yeah, there's other people doing it too. So I know that initially it might be tempting for people to keep what they're working on a secret, or attempt to close source it. But this really is limiting. It really, really is limiting your potential to get this out there and to move home mining forward. So yeah, I don't know, just put it out there. Like, it's gonna help. I posted, so
Yeah.
quick aside tangent. I made the Bitaxe Bonanza a while back, which was it had 8 Intel chips on it. Uh, is a total dud. Like, it doesn't work at all. Um, there was a couple like bugs that could be fixed, but there's a fundamental problem. Is just the ESP32 can't do 9-bit serial. Um, so I don't know. I just opened the repo up public the other day. I just posted it. The README says this doesn't work at all, but it's out there. Maybe someone can take that and screw with it and do something useful with it. I hope that no one just like builds it and starts selling it because it doesn't work at all. But
I bet
yeah, I
some
don't
people will already do. I
know.
mean,
Yeah, probably.
it
I don't
it's
know.
super crazy. The GT probably is the reason why we stopped doing it how we did it in the first place. So for everybody who does not know, like the process of how we worked on all of these BitX projects was like, well, from the very get-go, we just have it public on GitHub so that everybody can follow up the current process of changes and what else. And we always had this internal endeavorment of like, well, if it is a prototype, we apply an X to the naming scheme, like the version 100X or 100XX for the second revision of the testing device. And well, for quite a while, it worked really well because people do recognize, all right, they're still working on it. It's going forward, but it still needs a little bit of time. This was more or less in the early days. We were rather small. Not that many people knew us. We had probably like 200 people on this Discord. That's it. Like nobody knew what a BitX was. And out of a sudden these days, I mean, we have 11,000 members on this Discord channel here. We have over 7,000 people on Reddit and so many more on Twitter as well. It's insane how big this grew in such a short time. And the crazy thing about that is now it doesn't matter what we publish. People build it and sell it, even though we state in the README files it's not working or it's a testing device. I saw videos of YouTubers publishing, the GT is here, it's finally here, I got it from this Chinese manufacturer, I got it from this manufacturer. Not primarily focusing on Chinese people here, but usually they are the ones acting bad here, so I'm sorry. But yeah, it's insane. And I'm like, what? Did I miss something? Have I forgot to change something on the GitHub repository? Why is it now here? Okay, I'm confused. Like, you as the developer, and probably Scott, you felt that way. We're like, totally. If you would see that, and people are telling you, oh, the GT is here, finally, nice, that's so great. And you're like, what? Wait a second, that device is not working as intended. It's having a bug. And you are telling me it gets sold by people. What the freaking heck is going on? So, to make a point here, what we did or what we're currently doing with upcoming projects, because there are a couple of them, is they're not public until we have the board in a state where it's safe to use. The GT, I mean, I think Ben is currently testing on them, but the current work that is on GitHub is still a testing device. It is not fully functional. There are some bugs when you boot it up. It's sometimes hashing, sometimes not. Sometimes there's an imbalance, sometimes other things. We're figuring them out. And out of a sudden, there are manufacturers out there and selling that to the people who don't know about it. And they just think, well, that's a BitX and it's working and it's great. And they don't even care that there is an XXX on the silk screen. They just produce it that way. And if you then figure out, well, this device is burning up or something else is going wrong with it or it's not hashing at all, you then blame or think the BitX project is a shit one. So
Yeah.
this change over to making repositories private until it is a first working version is probably the best way of protecting people from getting these kind of stupid non-working devices.
I had this thought yesterday. about this. Again, like you said, like it's incredibly frustrating. Like I really don't want to see people making these miners uh, without putting any thought into it. Um, of these prototypes, and just selling them, being like, okay, cool. I grabbed the Gerbers and I'm going to print it and sell it. I was thinking yesterday that maybe the thing to do is, because there are benefits to having the repository open while it's still in development, right? Because new people can check it out and
Yeah.
get involved and learn about it. So there's a benefit there. That's kind of what this project is all about. But I think that going forward, I don't want to include the Gerbers for prototype projects. That means that anyone who wants to build it needs to generate the Gerbers themselves, and maybe even the bomb too. Uh, all that information is in the KiCad design files. It's not hard to do it. But what this does mean is that if you want to manufacture it, you have to take that additional step and understand what you're doing to generate the Gerbers and to generate the bomb. And I think that will eliminate some of these shops that are just like, oh yeah, just download the Gerbers. Like they're already in China. They have a PCB manufacturer and assembly house next door. It takes them like seconds to ramp it up. Hopefully that'll slow them down a little bit.
Well, maybe, but in the end,
Maybe. Yeah. I mean, clearly they can generate the Gerbers too, but if there's just that additional step there of like, you have to open up the project in KiCad, and generate these files, maybe that will, require people to put a little bit more effort into doing it and think about the fact that this is a prototype. Now, of course, once the design gets released, then we can include the Gerbers, but the design shouldn't get released until there's at least some indication that it works well.
yeah, well, that's definitely. It is a shame that we even need to think about it. That it's that stupid, and as Chris was pointing out, it's a mad rush to market with no thought. It is crazy that we like. I'm always referring to it like people are stepping up and like one clue, tell me this, tell me that, tell me whatever. Sure, I'm trying to be a little bit marketing wise here, going out there, telling the people, having a YouTube channel, going to conferences, trying to spread the thing because I freaking damn love what we're doing here. But it also puts me in the spot that people think like I know everything. While internally, like in my heart, I just want to be this freaking nerd sitting in my bunker, hopefully, and not talking to any person out there and just developing. That's all I want from my heart. But I do know
Same.
you can't do that. You need to be publicly available to spread this, what you're doing. Otherwise, people don't even know they have the option to own their own device, to own their own Bitcoin mining device. Otherwise, they would think, well, purchasing a Brains mini miner for $300 with just 1 terahash, that's the standard. That's what they would believe. It's a little bit frustrating. And yeah, getting with us into the spot that we actually need to talk about how can we protect people from purchasing stupid devices that are not fully functional. It it's it's a shame is said to less.
Yeah, we are on kind of a frontier, right? Open
Mm.
source hardware is a very new concept. Open source software has been around for a long time, but hardware is kind of a different game, and I think I still remain fully committed to open source hardware, but there's different things to consider when working on an open source hardware project, and we don't have a lot of good other projects in any field to look to as to how to do this. So I think just continuing to think about it, pay attention to it, see what people's reactions are, and adjusting the process as we go forward is, I don't know, it's probably all we can do, right?
Yeah, it's probably all what we can do because somehow we still need to make sure that people do get it, that there's open source stuff happening. But yeah, well, let's jump out of this and
Yeah, sure. Let's. I want to talk about some of the cool stuff that's coming in ESP Miner. You've been doing a ton of work on there.
I
I saw there was just a new beta release the other day.
yeah, the other beta release was really big. There are lots of changes of other people. It's a shame. Like lately, I'm so busy with stuff, and I hadn't really had time to dig through everything. But maybe we just quickly talk about the version 2.10.1 because most of the people, if they do have a Bitaxe, they do notice there is the version 2.10.1. I didn't make a video about it because it's minor changes. It's primarily just changes to the version 602, which gets produced by some manufacturers with a different version of TPS. The TPS is the buck converter on the backside that's converting your input voltage to a appropriate voltage for the AC chip itself. And the thing here was with different models of this TPS, for whatever reason, TI is not really capable of explaining these differences in the datasheet between these models. But we quickly figured out that some of these models do behave differently. So the version 2.10.1, if you have a Bitaxe 602, because some manufacturers already produce them, if you have that and it's not working fully, upgrade to that version because then it's hopefully doing better. With the latest beta release that we had lots of improvements to many things. Like Muntatrum was finally able to finish up the hash rate register. We now do have it on every single ASIC chip. So it's working full-fledged throughout the entire line, from the Bitaxe Max up to the Bitaxe Gamma. And we'll also be able to use that with the GT as soon as it is out there. But yeah, there are so many crazy things going on. There are, out of my head, I still remember we have 4 or 5 different PRs that still need to go into it. So I'm looking forward to create the next beta probably tomorrow. I still need to review and merge some code today. Lots of different changes still to the hash rate register, to a couple of API stuff, and as well a little bit of changes when it comes to the front end. Because DuckX, for example, he's doing so much crazy work on the front end. He is insane. I really love it to see that he's doing so much work on that. And yeah,
He really is. He
there are
really is.
so
I
many
look
great
at
things going on.
I see all of these new issues and commits and PRs and merges that happen. I look at all of them and there's so much going on. Yeah, the front end, right? There's tons of changes to Swarm.
Guys, I do hope and I bet you will love the new design of Swarm because DuckX was doing a fantastic job in reorganizing how it looks. So with the next version, you have a grid view. Like when you open up your file explorer, you can decide if you want to have a list view, which we currently have. We have like a list of every single device that is in your Swarm functionality in it. But now you can change it over, or with the next version, you can change it over to grid view, which is a little bit shorter, a little bit more minimal. I love it. I really love it. I like to use that feature. There are still a ton of other pull requests open that are not making it into this release or in any other release, but it's good to still have them open to be reminded about this fact or this potential change. Just because your pull request doesn't get merged doesn't mean it's shit. It just means maybe it does not fit or it's not correct. Usually we apply some labels to it or we add some comments to it. So just having a pull request open without any labels or responses is unusual. When it comes to the issues, that's a total different story. Like, I probably hadn't had time to go through the issues for at least 4 weeks. So there are over 100 issues. Oh, no. 98 issues are open currently. And
Gosh, 98 issues.
yeah, I do remember last month I was, oh no, we have November. In September, I was doing a little bit of cleanup and especially closing all of these issues that are unnecessary or what else. But apart from that, yeah, some of these issues are not well documented. Yeah, that's
I mean,
it.
it's a nice problem to have though, because I think previously no one was paying attention and no one was contributing anything. So it's nice, maybe a bit overwhelming, but it's nice to have people paying attention to this, submitting issues.
I mean,
Obviously,
I do
we
know
prefer to have.
tomorrow I'll have a little bit of time to actually dig through them because tomorrow I'm gonna travel 6 hours, 8 hours with the lovely Deutsche Bahn. So I do have a little bit of spare time to check on the GitHub repository and make sure to clean up some of the issues.
Very
And at the end of my journey, I'll hear the famous sentence, "Thank you for traveling with Deutsche Bahn."
Is this like a train or something?
Yeah, the German train, the Deutsche Bahn.
Uh, so you get to just kick back. You got Wi-Fi, and you can just.
Yeah, the Wi-Fi is usually ass. It's like less than 100 kilobytes per second, and you always have interrupts like every couple of seconds. It's lovely.
Well, if you're listening to this and you have a issue on ESP Miner, do Want Clue a favor. Go in and add some additional details. Close it if it's not happening anymore. If it is happening, add some additional details. We love to see screenshots. We really love to see is log files for when the specific issue happens. Anything that you can add to your issue to make it easier to reproduce or easier to diagnose, that helps a lot.
Yeah, I see one. I just closed it while we're talking here. There was someone who reported a unresponsive web UI after a few hours with the beta 1, and Mutatron was stepping up and having a conversation with him and said, well, hopefully it gets fixed by this pull request. And this dude replied, yeah, well, it's working now, but he didn't close the issue. Oh, man.
Yeah. Well,
I just
it's
closed it.
This whole being a responsible issue poster, right? It's, I don't know, they don't teach it in schools, right? You kind of got to learn by just getting involved. So hopefully people will figure it out if they're truly interested.
Well, contributing to an open source project, it's kind of a contradicting thing to do. I do I do listen to a Twitch streamer who is a software developer at a big company, and he's also talking and doing lots of things in the open source scene, not Bitcoin related, but generally open source related. And it's funny, he totally does have a different view about it, what you should do to get into projects. Like he was like, never ever start contributing with opening up issues if you don't know what you're talking about. Like, sure, yeah, somehow that's correct. I would somehow a little bit agree. But on the other hand, you wanna make sure that people get involved, and if they are not allowed to just give you their thoughts or their response about a certain feature or a certain bug, what do you want from them? Like, you need somehow some response from the people who are using your product or your service or your software or whatever. It's kind of a weird thing because some developers get really annoyed about that. They think like you're opening up an issue and your issue is totally stupid because you reported a bug, which is actually not a bug, but something else. Well, then I would question myself as a developer and would think like, if I hadn't made it clear that that is a explicit feature and people think it's a bug, well, then something is wrong on my end, probably. So it's this juggle between being a developer who's totally nerdy and understands his stuff, and at the same time, you need to think marketing wise, like how's this actually approaching the people who are going to use that and trying to use it for whatever they want. I do get that basically every single day. One of the best examples was someone who's testing the beta versions every single time, and he was just like, "Hey, I do have an online shop. I'm selling these things, and I just noticed if I do spin up my device during the frequency boot up timeline, it is actually producing quite a big number of errors because the ASIC chip itself is irresponsive to a couple of things, and changing the ASIC register to certain hash rate frequency, etc. pp. Does create errors internally. Why are these represented in the web UI?" And I was like, well, technically speaking, that's correct because it's an error of the ASIC chip that it's reporting, and we're just reporting basically the errors that we read from this register of the ASIC chip. And he was like, well, yes, he gets that, but he does know as soon as the next release comes out and we still have that in there, people are gonna send back their devices and tell him that they do have a broken Bitaxe because it produces so many errors. Like freaking heck, yeah, you're right. So you need to think about marketing at the same time. That's tricky. That's really tricky because now you no longer can just be this dude who's trying to love to be in his bunker and develop. No, you need to go out to conferences. You need to maybe run a YouTube channel. You don't need to do that, but I'm just stupid and love to talk to people. And then you also need to think about how does the consumer who's actually super, super, super stupid, don't get offended by that, but usually the user, if he's not technical, he will have issues. And you as a developer think, well, that's totally stupid. It's super easy to do, and I just build it so it's intuitive for me. Yeah, sure, it's intuitive for you, but people like make it granny proof. That's the reason why we have this term here in Open Source Miners United. We need to make this stuff granny proof. Your granny needs to be able to pull up a Bitaxe out of the box, plug it in, and the display tells it, Granny, please connect to my Wi-Fi. And here is my Wi-Fi name. Granny gets that. Granny connects to the Wi-Fi. Granny sees, all right, this is automatically redirecting me to the Wi-Fi page, and there's a search icon. I can search for my Wi-Fi. Ah, Granny gets that. If you use the old version of XOS, just try it. I always encourage people to do that. Try to use the version 2.1. Try to use the version 1.2.8. I do remember that. We had quite some funny bugs in there. Try to use it. It is super user unfriendly. And that is tricky. And that's the reason why I love people like Mutatrum, why I love people like PMax and DuckX, because they're trying to make everything work together. And even though sometimes, like, backend developers are doing something stupid and front-end developers are fixing it in a UX term, or it goes the other way around. And the best part about what we do have here in this community, what I really love is like, I have an issue, but I do know there are other ones out there that I can just ask and they have a different opinion and we can work together. And out of a sudden it works. Like I do remember the hash rate register. It was out there for such a long time. PMax implemented it first to a working version on the NerdMiner series firmware, and Mutatrum adapted it because my version that I built was totally shit and he did a way better job. So it's fantastic that all of us are working so great together. And I think now is enough of me just highlighting and talking in tight terms about how great development is, because sometimes it's not. And I just love it. And sometimes I speak too much about it. So anyway, Scott, we're sitting here at 1 hour 17. I think people are still amazed, but the chat is slowing down. So do you have a couple of topics, or people in the audience? Do you guys have any questions? Do you want to talk about a specific topic, anything that comes up to your mind, or you have any issues with your Bitaxe? Step up, just ask them in the chat. If you don't, I think we will end up this town hall in the next couple of minutes. Scott, do you have any?
This like Thomas the Train thing is kind of creeping me out. What does that even mean?
Well, I don't know.
I don't know. It just keeps playing and it's totally creeping me out.
It was super funny. In the first half an hour of this town hall, we had someone in the chat who was constantly speaking about World of Warcraft. I mean, I love World of Warcraft. I play it, but he was joining in here. I was like, well, I thought this is a Discord about World of Warcraft. I'm like, what?
All right, Matt has a question or an issue.
Yeah.
Devices connecting to the AP, so I assume that's the wireless access point, but not showing an IP address on the screen. Have seen this a few times. That's interesting. So
that's a DHCP issue.
Oh. So it's a DHCP issue where the Bitaxe is not getting an IP address from DHCP?
Yes, well, there are basically two possibilities of how this can happen. Either the DHCP range is full of your router, which can happen at multiple times. Like if I'm thinking about Matt, for example, like Matt, let's say you're in your office and today you need to pull out 200 orders of your Bitaxe, whatever. You want to obviously make sure that these work, so you connect them to your Wi-Fi. The issue is, if you do this every single day, a DHCP range depending on how you configured it, only has 254 addresses available for you. And DHCP addresses, they do have a time to live, or it's not a TTL explicitly for DHCP, it's another term there, but there is a certain amount where the router says, well, this explicit IP address is reserved for this device with MAC address 123, whatever. If this save or this storage of this DHCP server is not flushed or not resetted in a period of time, it will get full. Sometimes it will get renewed every 24 hours, but depending on your router model, it can be that your router still uses these old MAC addresses and cannot give out new IP addresses to new devices who are trying to connect. One thing
So
to play
question,
around with that would be to either have multiple Wi-Fi networks or to every single day flush the DHCP server.
can we show on the screen that, right? Does ESP Miner know that it doesn't have an IP? It should know, right?
Yeah.
We could show on the screen
if you do have an
IP
empty
address
string,
is none or something like that, like some sort of error to indicate that we are connected to the wireless access point, but we don't have an IP address yet. Like,
yeah, so what happens if your DHCP server is full is it still allows the connection, so your Bitaxe still connects to it, but the initial request of, hey, give me an IP address, and then the DHCP server responds with, well, I do have a free spot for you, here's your IP address, that never happens, but you're still connected to the access point.
okay.
In that
So
case,
maybe we could have some sort of default state where, yeah, okay, it says AP connected, right? So there's two different processes happening here. One is connecting to the access point, right? The Wi-Fi is connected, but DHCP is an application running on the router that handles assigning IP addresses to the devices. So the Bitaxe, all right, this would be an enhancement to the firmware, but the Bitaxe would know that it's in this state that is connected to the access point but doesn't have an IP address. So maybe in the IP address section on the screen, we could show something of like IP address none or IP address not found or something like that, something to indicate that there was a problem getting the IP address, right? It's because we run into this problem of people's mental model being incorrect, meaning they think that as soon as you connect to the access point, now you're ready to start communicating on the network. But that's not true. There's other things that need to happen. One important one is getting an IP address from the DHCP server.
yeah, it's kind of tricky because the way how we use the Wi-Fi DHCP server internally on the ESP itself.
The client,
Um,
yeah.
no, we use the AP on the ESP and the client in a dual stack scenario, something like that. So technically speaking, you can be connected with the ESP to another Wi-Fi and still have your own Wi-Fi access point on the ESP open and running simultaneously. That's working. That can work, and for a short period of time, we are actually doing that on the ESP. But the problem with that is if you don't get an IP address from the router, I'm not sure if we have a null string, if we have a null itself in it. Um, well, we could technically test that, just ranging or just lowering the IP ranges in our DHCP server and just test that out to see what's
Yeah, this
happening.
might be worth creating an issue just to track if we can figure it out. If there's something that we could show on the Bitaxe side, like on the display, or maybe, well, I guess the UI AxOS doesn't work because you can't reach AxOS yet. But if there's something we could show on the display, like IP error, right? Like we don't have one yet. We're connected to the access point, but we don't have an IP. I know that macOS back in the day, it was really confusing, but if there was a DHCP error, it would show this like 169 IP address. And it took me a long time to realize what was going on. But if your device has a 169 IP address, that means it's self-assigned and it's basically just never going to work.
Yeah.
So we could see, are we getting a self-assigned IP address? This probably depends on how the ESP IDF DHCP client works, but you know, maybe there's a way to determine if, we've made the request. Well, I guess I don't know if we make a request to the DHCP server, but if we're at the point in the code where we're supposed to be getting the IP address, and we don't have one, possibly we could show some sort of error to indicate that, like,
Yeah, just
we
creating
didn't
an
get an
issue for that.
IP. Okay. Yeah, we just make an issue for it. It seems like it's probably possible to handle that error case, but the TCP/IP stack on ESP32, it's primitive.
It's well designed. It's doing what it's supposed to do.
It's doing what it's supposed to do. Yes, but maybe there's some error case there that
Well,
we can show.
one primarily interesting thing here is the biggest issue that I had recently, or not recently, but the biggest issue, the most often issue that I've heard about is like, well, I connected my Bitaxe, but it's not working. It's not mining. What's happening? So then usually you do have like two possibilities that are going on. Either your device is broken or your router is shit. And 85% of the time it's the router. Like Asus, for example, if you have an Asus router, they have this weird AI malware tracking shit, and it's just blocking everything that is Stratum, everything, and a
Oh,
bunch of other
that's
things as
so
well. So if
frustrating.
you have a Asus
Okay.
router, you need to deactivate this AI enhanced router shit stuff. It's ridiculous.
But again, grandma's never going to do that, right? She just like got some ridiculous router that her like grandson was like, yeah, just put this in there, or that the ISP just provided when she got internet. And you're like, oh
Yeah,
yeah,
it's
like AI enhanced security. Like, of course I want that. If they even thought about it for a second. But
ISP routers are usually meh. Like it's super
yeah,
funny
they're always meh.
that I've switched my ISP probably now the fifth time, and every single time like I do make a new contract. Oh, do you want to have our router? Like, no. Well, but then you can use all of our. No, thank you. I have my own router equipment. I have my own firewall. I have my own networking stack. I don't need your stuff. Well, but no, we don't want that. Because the funny part that most of the people don't know is like if you have an ISP router from your ISP, what are what are they able to do? They are able to remotely connect into these devices. Usually, not all of them, but most of them. And
Well, they
like
always have them like hard coded to their DNS server, right? Which is just a shit show.
depends. Um, Most of the routers that at, at least we get here in Germany with ISPs, you do have the option to change DNS servers, so that's okay. But yeah,
Yeah, I guess
DN,
there's usually the option to change it, but it's going to come default with their DNS server, and depending on how sketchy your ISP is, they do all kinds of stuff from tracking you to injecting ads towards doing like safe search blocking and all kinds of nonsense. I
so
remember there was a
I
bunch of
have a great
drama.
story about that here. So I recently upgraded myself to fiber. I'm now paying up to 80 euros a month for my fiber connection because I wanted to have like my 1 gigabit internet connection here. I was desperate for that. The thing is, like, I was coming from DSL connectivity. I had everything
Yeah,
set
that
up,
sucks
everything
crap.
was just working like a charm, but I was limited by the internet speed and by all the services that I'm now running in my own home lab and that I'm exposing to a couple of things and offering service to us and other customers. I needed more traffic. And now I do have a totally new problem that I was not aware that we are living in 2025 and people are still doing that. So there's a thing called a reconnect. It's not called a reconnect. It's a wait. In German, it's called a Zwangstrennung. I don't know the term in English for that, but in the early days of the internet, there was a thing where ISPs were reconnecting you every single day because they needed to clean up their IP ranges and what else. That was really, really in the old days. That was needed for certain things. Now with fiber connectivity, you don't need that. You have so many IPv6 addresses, you cannot run out of them. You can't. Like even if every single device on this planet Earth, and we have over, I don't know, 12 billion devices on this planet Earth that are connected to the internet, we have lots of more IPv6 addresses out there that we can use for that. But somehow, some ISPs are still reconnecting you every 24 hours. And I switched over. I was happy. I had fiber. I have 1 gigabit down, 1 gigabit up. I was like, well, yeah, freaking heck, it's working. I can expand all the services. I don't need to run all my services for my customers in the cloud anymore. I can do that on premise. I can use my own hardware. I can control my own stuff. Guess what? The damn ISP is reconnecting me every 24 hours in the middle of the night at 2 a.m. And the reconnection time is freaking 3 minutes. So I'm offline every single day for 3 minutes.
Ooh.
You might think that's not that bad, but dude, like, why do I pay $80 for that?
Yeah, in the US, like Chris is saying, you can pay more to get static IPs,
Hmm.
which is nice to have. Not all ISPs can even give you static IPs, but some of them can.
Yeah, it's
Um,
kind of weird.
but that might be tougher in Europe because I know for a fact that all of Europe, basically all the rest of the world, is splitting a small fraction of the IP4 addresses. Like the US has the lion's share of them. Um, I don't know.
I get always a little bit jealous if I watch some of these YouTubers who say they are on Google Fiber and they have a 10 gigabit internet connectivity. I'm like, damn, I want that
That's
too.
rare. That's rare. That is really rare.
Well, I've seen a couple of YouTubers, but yeah, YouTubers are not the standard.
Yeah, yeah. Google Fiber normally is maxes out at 1 gigabit. I know AT&T can do 2 or maybe 5 gigabit, but that's expensive, right? You're going to be at like hundreds of dollars a month.
Well, about the point of like having static IP addresses, that was totally a thing a couple years ago, but usually these days ISPs use double netting and they don't offer you static IP addresses any longer as a normal customer. You can get a static IP address as a business customer. So was I doing? I was looking into it. The same internet connectivity, 1 gig up, 1 gig down. As a business, because they have all the business features into it, doesn't cost me $80 per month. It would cost me $700 per month. Because
Yeah, they're like,
I
"Oh, you're a business? You can pay way more."
yeah, because then they offer you 32 static IP addresses. Like, dude, I just need one. I don't need 32, please. Mm.
Yeah,
Anyway,
yeah.
that's some shittery out of Germany from Ron Clue. I needed these 5 minutes to tell you that because I was really pissed about it. Sorry if you're not interested into that, but yeah, talking about internet connectivity, connecting your device to it, connecting your Bitaxe, it's sort of tricky. And
Matt had a question up above. Any updates on 2.4 and 5 gigahertz Wi-Fi?
yeah,
I
well,
am testing a new Espressif module that does 5 gigahertz as well as 2.4 gigahertz.
the P6,
It's the C6, yeah.
C6, but it only has
C6,
one
yeah.
core, if I'm not mistaken.
It only has one core. It's a RISC-V core, which is interesting.
Mm,
Um, it seems like it could work. The chip is not actually super available yet. I worry about getting access to buying those modules, so it's worth trying. I I was talking with I think with Ben about this the other day. It would be nice to support 5 gigahertz Wi-Fi, but the Bitaxe certainly doesn't need it, right? You're going to get better range out of 2.4 gigahertz, and we don't need the increased bandwidth that's provided by 5 gigahertz. Like we definitely don't need it. The only benefit I think to having 5 gigahertz is that better compatibility with newer Wi-Fi routers.
you're missing a
But
point,
I don't think that they're ever going to disable 2.4, right? There's just too many 2.4 gigahertz devices out there.
probably. But one bigger advantage for the 5 gigahertz is the reduced latency.
I don't know. Is it that much different?
It's a couple of milliseconds.
Is it? I don't know. I mean, there certainly isn't like any inherent difference in 2.4 gigahertz versus 5 gigahertz. Um,
I mean,
they
it
both
comes
operate at
with
the
the
speed of
stack.
light. Like,
You increase the
what's that?
frequency. I said it comes with the stack. You increase the frequency you can move stuff quicker.
Huh. I guess I hadn't heard that. I mean, obviously there's differences in the bandwidth, but is there really a difference in the latency? I don't know. Maybe we should look into that. That'd be worth checking out. I mean, just because we update to like a new ESP32 with 5 gigahertz doesn't mean that it's going to have reduced latency, right?
So
Because there's
yeah, I just pulled it up. There's a Wikipedia article about it. So with 5 gigahertz, you achieve an average latency of 4.6 milliseconds with a standard deviation of like zero point 0.9 milliseconds. And with 2.4 gigahertz, you have an average latency of 12.9 milliseconds. So it's by a
oh,
factor of 3 better in latency.
and is that something that doesn't seem like it's intrinsic to the higher frequency? I wonder if it's just the stack or the radio. It
The,
doesn't seem like it's the radio. Like maybe it's the
okay,
stack.
they do state the difference is due to less interference and higher throughput on the 5 gigahertz band. Sure, like every single device
Okay.
is running on 2.4 gigahertz. There's so much noise going on, so that sometimes you need to send double the packages to achieve what you want to achieve. So yeah, 5 gigahertz is not used that much, so there's way more throughput and way less interference. But
That's going to change, right? As more and more 5 gigahertz devices come out.
but 5 gigahertz does have so much more room compared to 2.4 gigahertz. So it's going to be hard to reach the numbers that we do have these days with 2.4 gigahertz.
Does it though? I think they're wider channels.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, way
I
wider.
don't know if there's more room.
Uh,
They're wider
Well,
channels, but if you have too many devices in range and all those channels are full, then you're going to have the same problem again.
yeah, it's like this problem. You're in a student apartment with like 200 other students. Everybody does have his own Wi-Fi. Yeah, that's gonna suck.
We had someone on OSMU the other day who was saying like, "Oh, the range is just terrible on my Bitaxe. Like, what's going on?" And then I think someone else suggested it was like, try switching. Go onto your router and change the channels that it's operating on. And he did that, and it fixed the problem.
Mm.
So yeah, I mean, congestion is not something that we can solve from the Bitaxe client side, right? If your wireless spectrum is congested because you're in a city area or you just have a shit ton of Bitaxes, that's yeah, that's going to be a problem. You need to address it, I think, from your router side. Yeah, I don't know. If there's too much we can do about that.
No, no, not really. I mean, a client cannot tell the AP to do what channel to use. That's not how that works.
Yeah, sometimes the routers will have a utility in it where it can do a scan and tell you like what the least congested channels are and to use those.
Yeah,
It's
most
kind
of
of
these business AP points that you can purchase, they do have this feature built into them that they will scan what kind of network ranges are currently available, and they switch to a channel which is the best at your location.
yeah.
But yeah,
Maybe we need like a actually we probably really do need is an FAQ, right? For all these common questions.
yes, yes,
Um,
yes. Working on it. Bidx help website is coming.
right? The common question of which pool should I use? Oh my gosh. That should
Uh,
definitely be on there. And then should I solo mine or pool mine? That should
you know
definitely be
what?
on there. And
You
then,
you bring
I
up
don't have good range. Like, what should I do?
you bring up a good point. Maybe I should build some sort of a. I don't know how I should do that, but maybe I should add into the BitX help website something like a form where you can apply or try to put in a question, maybe even with an answer, if you do have something for that, and then it gets applied to the BitX help website if it is a good one or not.
That's actually a good idea, especially if we kind of like monitored it and make sure that the right stuff was on there. Right? Because what you don't want is that famous Yahoo answers where like everything is totally wrong. But yeah, something like that, and use that to kind of build out an FAQ.
Maybe we
Because
need
and even for on the forum, like pointing people, because we get questions all the time, the same questions over and over, right? Which are legitimate questions. But if we could just be like, no, read this. Here's all your answers right here.
yeah, definitely would be cooler to have that. I mean, I'm thinking about Stack Overflow currently because the usual thing, Stack Overflow is like a forum where you go as a developer if you do have any programming related questions, usually. The most common answer is like, you're stupid, stop what you're doing.
Yeah. Yeah. I
It's,
mean, AI now is so good at answering these things, right? A lot of these people should just like open up Grok and type in their question. But
yeah, but even then, you get so much wrong answers from AI. Um,
yeah.
lately I was playing around with RAG, which is like a um, basically think about it, you have an AI model and you can hook up a database to it. And I was creating a database for common questions all around Bitaxe, which works quite well because you just need a small, tiny model. It doesn't need to be an expensive big one, uh, just one that is barely over 6 gigabytes of size from an LLM standpoint of view. And you just connect it to this database. And whenever you ask a question, it reaches out to this database, asks it some stuff like, well, how does a BitX work or whatever. And then it filters that out. It retrieves the answer from this other database server and then gives this back out to the user in a corresponding or responsive way that the user can understand it. It's quite nice. Technically speaking, I could host this, but man, I no, that's too much electricity.
That might be getting a little bit complicated, right? I think if we just had a website that was easy enough to update, um, there was just a question and answer style FAQ, uh, even if it's just, maintainers that can post stuff on there, right? Those three questions right off the bat, like what pool should I mine to? Should I solo mine or should I pool mine? And then we could get into things like my BitX has bad range, or it's not mining, or even this like uh, I'm not getting an IP address on the screen. What should I do? Or the question about like my BitX can't connect to my Wi-Fi. We could be like, turn off AI router thing. That might be a cool sort of community project to have, even just for pointing people to on the Discord. Because one of the things that sucks about Discord is like we've answered these questions so many times, but there's no real way to search Discord. Like you can, but like newbies aren't going to do that. If we
That's the
just had
issue.
like, yeah, like if we just had a place where just common questions and answers were we could refer people to, and then hopefully Google would index that. And so if these people have the wherewithal to Google their questions, hopefully that would come up as well.
Yeah, well, I said it probably like 2 town halls back already, so it's now over a month, or even longer. I said it already that I'm working on the BitX help web page. Too many other projects keeping me distracted
A lot
from
of
doing
projects.
that.
A lot of projects. Looking for volunteers if anyone wants to set this up.
Well,
Hit
I
us
probably
up.
should just post the MVP that I currently do have and then work from that. Anyway, we're seeing it 1 hour 43. It's a long session today. I'm
This is a
I'm
long session. Lots of good questions from people. Tell us something about the new Intel Proto. Oh, yeah. Okay, real quickly. I promise, real quick. Um, so I was saying earlier how the BitX Bonanza was a dud. I kind of went back to the drawing board on that, and I made the BitX Birds. It stands for BitX Intel Reference Design System. Birds, cool acronym. Uh, it's a simpler device. It's hardware that's intended for people who are developing the firmware for Intel chips. I haven't tested this yet. I think I've finalized the design. I ordered boards and parts. I'll build them up and test it. But the repo's public on bitx.org, GitHub, if you want to check it out. It doesn't use ESP32. It uses the RP2350, which should be able to handle 9-bit serial much better. It actually uses a Pico, a little development board from Raspberry Pi called the Pico 2W. Check it out. Yeah, it's a tool for developing this new firmware, because interacting with the Intel ASICs is different. It's harder than the Bitmain chips, and it's different. So it's going to need some real thought put into the firmware to support it. So that's what Birds is for. Let's see. We have any other questions before we're done here? Hunter was asking about the power fall issue. Man, we've been working on this one for a while. I don't know if we have a good solution yet. We have a lot of theories as to what could be wrong. No solutions yet. I think everyone has their own pet theory as to what could be going on here. It's been notoriously hard for anyone to reproduce who can debug it.
Well, with that, I think it's your time now to give a little bit of a shout out here, and then we'll end this
All
session.
right. Yeah, let's do it. Animal, good to see you. I feel like relatively new, but I appreciate all your input. Good to see you hanging out with us. Next up, we got Matt and Hunter from Solo Satoshi. I had a great time hanging with you guys in Atlanta at TabConf. Always, you guys are killing it, doing good work. Good to see you hanging out in the town hall. EDU, what's up? Good to see you. Always appreciate your participation in the OSMU Discord. We have exclamation point bang. I don't know how to pronounce your name, but good to see you, a regular around here. Tommy G from IX Tech. Good to see you. You guys seem to be always working on cool hardware. You have the Nerd QX, which looks like it's going to be pretty hot. I know we were talking about some nonsense with international shipping. Man, that's such a shit show, but that's a topic for another day. Best I can say is good luck, man. It sucks. Ben C98, good to see you. It's been a while. Hope you're doing well. Let's see. We have Brucey. Probably didn't pronounce that right, but you got a umlaut on the U there. So another regular, good to see you. Always got lots of intriguing questions and answers for people on OSMU Discord. Let's see who else we got. Cortic 254, my favorite. Let's say not ocean hater, but challenger of the status quo, and some of the messaging that's coming out of those guys. So we could keep them on their toes. Coinbit, good to see you. Thanks for joining us. PMax, I noticed you just popped back in right for the end, but you were here the whole time. I love your work. You're doing fantastic stuff. Don't stop. Can't stop. Just keep coming up with funky ass shit like every single day. And yeah, thanks for everyone for joining us. Those of you listening in later, I hope you enjoyed the town hall. Appreciate you all listening.
Thanks for joining by, and see you in 2 weeks. Bye-bye.
Till next time.